Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to use the backdrop of the human motivation theory. And you're welcome, of course. I'm just introducing these concepts. I'm not saying that it's the complete, obviously it runs deeper. We're using the human motivational theory, structural dynamics, the issue of the creative process, and 80-20. And so now we're going to move into taking it step by step in terms of how are we going to take those principles, those biologic principles, and how are we going to take them and apply them to build a practice that works and one that grows, okay? Because what we want is growth. Now, each of you, everybody has to make the determination when they start talking about growth. Well, what does growth mean to you? Growth means different things to different people. To some people, it's getting bigger. To other people, it's getting better, right? So it's not just always about size. In fact, growth could be really a bad thing, because isn't cancer growth, right? Cancer is uncontrolled growth. So the idea is that all growth isn't good growth. So you and I each have to define what that is. So understanding that we're going to really work with this idea, the principles, well, what are they? What are we going to start with? Well, we're going to start with your values, okay? Because we have to start with your values because it's your practice, right? In other words, if you go to work for someone else, it's probably a pretty good idea to find out what are the core values of that organization you're working for. Because if your values aren't in alignment with theirs, automatically you have a problem. But in developing your own practice, it starts with your own personal values, okay? So Sid Simon kind of wrote the book on values. Actually, he was a student of Rath's, but Sid Simon talked a lot about values. And here's what Sid Simon said. He said, a true value is different than a value becoming. Many people have values becoming. In other words, they talk it, but they don't what? Walk it. So in thinking about how do we walk our talk, here's what he said. Number one, whatever we choose must be chosen freely. It has to be chosen among alternatives and after some reflection. And then, to be a true value, it has to be prized and cherished. In other words, something that you're excited about, something that is important to you. And then, if it's a true value, it's publicly affirmed. Okay? And obviously, it's acted on, and then it becomes a pattern of repeated behavior. Do you see how that fits with the idea of structural dynamics? It becomes a pattern. Okay? So as you think about this, your values, like my values, are what you care deeply about. What do you care deeply about? Okay? This is your practice. It's your life. How are you going to infuse your values into your practice, okay? Because what it will be is your values will ultimately guide the way what you do. So dentists with true values are engaged and inspired, okay? They're obviously more alive. They build innovative practices and lives. The practices are reliable and predictable. Why? Because you can trust that person to be acting on their values, right? You know that that person, that's what builds character, it's what builds a reputation, okay? And they're always busy creating what's important to them because they have already articulated and they've gone through the process. You might want to write this down because you need value clarification is always first. Conflict resolution is second. What if you have a couple values and they're really in conflict with each other, okay? And then goal setting is third. Goal setting is not first. Value clarification always is. So I put down, just as an example for me, not that anybody should be me, but I think through what are my most important values. And one of them is truth. I'm a seeker of truth, and I want to be as healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually as I can be. I'm always working on that. If you go into my library, you'll see in my library there's things about health and wellness. There's things about emotional health. There's a lot of segments about spiritual health. You know, I have to be thinking about that. So health is all of those things. And integrity is way up on my list. And relationships and love, okay, are very, very important in my life. And also a big part of my life and a big part of my interest is transforming other people's lives. And freedom and learning and wealth and abundance. But if I had to pick one, it would be relationships and love. Because I'm a firm believer that love is the only answer. There is no other answer to living in life. It is the single most important part. And I was reading the other day one of my books about John Wooden. See, John Wooden had his credo. He knew what he stood for. So this was his 7 credo. Be true to yourself. Make friendship a fine art. Talking about relationship. Make each day a masterpiece. What are you waiting for? Okay. Build a shelter against a rainy day. Help others. Drink deeply in good books and pray for guidance and give thanks each day. The winningest coach in all of sports. Never had an incident like just went on at Penn State. Never would have an incident like that under him. It would have never happened because of who he was and what he stood for. Okay? So if you don't think character counts in this day and age, I got news for you. Okay? In a world going the wrong direction, the people that have strong values and live them. Okay? So here's what you need to remember about your practice or about any organization you work for. Any organization, any business, any corporation is amoral. It has no values. Your business, your practice has no values, but you do. Follow me? You do. So it's your job, like it's my job, to impose my values on my practice or my business. I'm saying impose, and I mean it. Another word could be infuse. So we're going to use this and think about how do I infuse my values into my practice? How do I infuse my values into everyday work? Okay? So what about you? As you think about your practice and your life, what guides you? What are the key values that determine the kind of dentistry you do, the kind of people you hang out with, what you learn, where you go, and is it expedient values or is it these kind of core values? Okay?